Well, welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Tanner O'Brien. I'm a senior partner here at Action Coach in Central Texas. Today, I'm sitting down with Pavel Kolenda, who is the owner of Backyard Pod. So excited to be sitting down. Pavel, I just want to say thank you, first off, for taking the time to be here to chat with me today, for us to have some conversation around entrepreneurship, around business, about this crazy journey that many of us are on. Probably just easy. Let's start with a little bit of background. Give us kind of the 10,000 foot view of who you are and tell us a little bit about Backyard Pod.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. This is an absolute pleasure and honor to be here. So quick overview of Backyard Pod. We are a company that focuses on small spaces. So interestingly enough, we're in Texas where everything is bigger, right? And we're doing the opposite, right? Small spaces in Texas. So we build tiny homes, we build backyard offices, and anything really in between, right? Our company that's our niche, is to utilize space as much as we can. I am originally from Poland, where everything is a little bit more condensed, and we all live in smaller homes and smaller apartments, right? So I'm incorporating some of the thoughts and European design into our products here at Backyard Pod. So that's kind of our mission, right? And our focus. And we've been in business for about 3 years now. We started when COVID happened, and everyone needed an extra space in their backyard for their home office. And that has evolved into building ADUs, tiny homes, and all kinds of products that fall into the category.
Very cool. So what has been your background leading up to 3 years ago and launching this crazy idea? What's been your experience? Do you have businesses before that? Do you have other businesses now? What's been your background specifically before getting into Backyard Pod?
Yeah, no, thank you. That's a great question. So growing up, people always ask you, like, who did you want to be when you were a kid, right? And I always wanted to be a business owner. Like, I just, people say fireman, police officer, right? Truck driver, like business owner was since I was a little kid. And I came to the United States, which, the American dream, right? And I think like the perfect example of it. With $1,000 in my pocket, so no longer $100, with $1,000, and about 17 years ago. And I had to figure out a path from there, right? So went to college, and in order to pay for college, I worked in construction. So that's where I learned how to build things, right? So I learned everything from plumbing, electrical, framing, roofing, all that stuff. College experience wasn't super fun because I was working full time and going to school full time, but I learned a ton. And when I was choosing my education path, I've selected accounting because everyone kept on always telling me accounting is the language of business, right? Once you know accounting, you know how business operates. So that's what I studied, and that's where I worked for about 10 years. I got my CPA license, and I worked in consulting and audit for clients of all shapes and sizes, and throughout the entire country. So I learned to see how very successful companies, multi-billion-dollar companies, work, right? And what makes them tick. And I got to see how failing companies are also working, right? So there's a lot of good lessons and bad lessons, right? And again, from multi-billion company to small businesses, and some of my clients went from $1 million of revenue to multi-billion-dollar companies while I was working with them. So that was just a really incredible thing to be a part of. So worked as a CPA for about 12 years, I think, in total, if I recall correctly. And I just started doing construction projects on site as a hobby, right? Renovated my own home, and people were like, well, do you mind doing my renovation too? And I said, sure, not like I have anything to do on the weekends, right? So I would pick those up, and I just really enjoyed doing it, right? The more time I was spending on a construction site, I was realizing I really like this way more than sitting in front of my 3 screens and 17 spreadsheets open at the same time. And a colleague of mine approached me during COVID, and he said, showed me a product of a competitor and said, would you mind building one of those for me? And I said, I really wouldn't mind at all. I think I can beat their price, and I also can make something that's much better looking than this also. So, we agreed on a price, and I sketched out the design, and I said, take this to your neighbors and make sure that they can take a look at it and they okay it before we build it, so you don't have any issues with that. So he goes to both his neighbors, and both the neighbors were like, we want one too, right? So I said, okay, I think we have a business here. So And I was actually, all of this is happening while I am driving to, we have a little cabin up in Minnesota. So my wife and I are in a car while all of this is happening. It's like a 3-day journey driving up there. Um, so I, wipe on my laptop. We change seats. She drives. I set up a website while driving up to Minnesota. And I remember this was not soon after Tesla released their Model 3. And I don't know if you recall that they essentially like showed one picture of this Model 3 and gave the stats, and they sold like 400,000 of them, right? And people gave them a top, like they raised $400 million with a picture of a car. And I'm thinking to myself, like, wonder if I can do the same thing, right? So I got a picture, I took that rendering, threw it on the website, went on Tesla contracts, downloaded a contract, find and replace Tesla with Backyard Pod, and started sending it out to my potential customers in Austin while I was on my vacation in Minnesota. And people were like, sure, this sounds great. Here's $1,000 deposit, right? So by the time I came up from my vacation, I had about 15 deposits actually to build tiny homes here in Austin, which was just incredible, right? The demand was just so crazy. Um, so yeah, so that kind of got me going into that, and I maintained my CPA job for a little bit longer after all this happened. But I started realizing that how important it was for me to devote all of my time and attention to the business. So eventually, my wife actually took over my CPA job, and I went and I fully committed myself to the business, and that has been one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life.
And that is such a fun journey. I love the way you launched it and leveraging a really cool thing that was out there with how Tesla did their thing and just basically let's copy paste and do it, and it worked and it's fantastic. I have to ask, so cabin up in Minnesota, where at in Minnesota?
Gull Lake. You familiar with Gull Lake?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
much.
yeah. I'm originally from Mason City, Iowa, and every summer we would go up to Minnesota, and we were up on like Woman Lake and kind of up by Longville and how is it north of Bacchus, I think. Anyway, but
Mhm.
yeah, we would go up to the lakes up in Minnesota like every single year. That was our family vacation. So I had to
I
ask because
have,
I know the area pretty well.
and I have a follow-up question I have to ask. Do you water ski?
I did, yes, I did. I haven't
Okay,
in a while, but yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
we'll have
Oh
to
man,
get
it was
back into it. That's like our favorite
yeah,
thing.
yeah. That's
Uh,
and I absolutely love that stuff. That's something that I have I just have not prioritized, that part of fun in a while. So awesome. Well, I love this. I love the journey, all that kind of stuff. But I want to let's dive in a little bit deeper.
yeah.
So with the business, with Backyard Pod, I always like to ask just kind of like role within the business today. Do you have team members that help you out on a lot of things? How many different hats do you have to wear, get to wear in the business today?
Yes. I do have a wonderful team I work with, right? And delegating some of the responsibilities is such a key component of our growth. So we have our core team, and that's divided into our operations, into our construction delivery, our administrative and permits, and our sales teams, right? So that's how we have it divided. And each one of those quote unquote departments has a leader that's overseeing it, right? Um, I'd love to be at a place, and that's my goal, to be in a place where I'm going to be more of a week to week person versus day to day person, right? But as our
Mhm.
business is still fairly young, it's been only 3 years. I'm still fairly involved in each one of those processes. My teammates are extremely hardworking and very very talented and intelligent, and they take on so much responsibility so quickly. But there's still a considerable amount of coaching that's required, right? As we grow as a business. So I'm involved fairly heavily. However, just fairly 6 months ago, my wife and I had our first son, and he was a preemie, and we ended up staying with him in a hospital for a little bit. And I had to step away from my business completely, right? I had zero time to talk to anyone about anything, right? And I was just so impressed how my team stepped up and was able to handle, whether it was positive situations or negative situations or escalations with clients. They really came together and took care of everything that needed to be taken care of. So that gave me a ton of assurance that I have the right people, and I'm very excited to continue growing with them.
Oh, that is fantastic. So when you look at like all the stuff that you kind of have your hands in currently, is there, a particular role within the company, whether it's, a particular part of the department, whether it's operations or finance or
Mhm.
marketing or sales or what have you? Is there, one that you're like, as soon as I can give this one away, this is the first one to go. It's not my favorite. And then like on the other side of the equation, is there one that you're like, I'm keeping this one as long as I can because I absolutely love doing this part of the business?
Yes, that's such a great question. I think the toughest one and the most time-consuming one is operations, right? Just overseeing our administrative and in-house operations of projects. So tracking projects, project progress, communications with clients, keeping them updated, and funneling any sort of escalations or any issues, right? This one is definitely the most taxing one, right? I, selfishly, I would love to give that away to someone or delegate it because that's the most stressful aspect of the job too. That is literally the most stressful part of this business. So I would love to not be involved in it, but inherently, my involvement or escalation to me has to happen occasionally. I have to step in and I have to help out to my team, and a lot of times, on bigger projects or with some customers, even on smaller projects, right? We have to do that, right? One of the rules we try to follow is that every single issue that's happening has to be treated as a big issue, right? There's a simple customer
Mm.
service rule. If you don't make a big deal out of an issue, your customers will. So we always try to make a big deal out of any escalation that happens, and that fairly often requires me to be involved and help navigate around the problem or any sort of obstacle. So operations is going to be the one where I think I'm working very hard with my team right now to streamline it and create accountability and have a process where I don't have to be involved as much in smaller, less important items. When it comes out to things that really give me pleasure working with, sales is always very fun to do, right? There's just this excitement and it's exhilarating to make a big sale, right? It's just such a fun process. So I like to be involved in that, similar with marketing, but I think my favorite is just architectural design, just
Mm.
being able to sit down with the software and then start thinking of the new product that we're going to launch, or work with a customer that has a vision, right, and collaborating with them on how our products can fit into their vision and create a dream, a home of their dreams. So that's a part that I think long term I would like to be involved, always, right? Even if I step down to a week-to-week responsibilities, this just is something that's my passion, and I want to continue doing that.
I love that. Let's actually talk a little bit about the customer, the client. Then, who I always like to ask, who do you primarily serve? And kind of my favorite way to kind of frame this up is if I'm sitting here, I'm watching this video later on, I'm listening to this conversation. How do I know I'm a really good fit to give you a call and see if something might make sense here, or I might know somebody that I can refer over to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Majority of our clients right now are residential, right? So you have a backyard that has some space. There's obviously limitations about your impervious coverage, right? Building covers, things like this, but most of the properties have extra space to add a structure. And it's fairly uncommon in the United States actually to have any other structure on your property besides your home. There's occasionally a shed, right? But it's different in Europe, right? Particularly on older homes. Almost every single home had a secondary kind of accessory structure where you either had like a little workshop or outdoor kitchen and things like this. So we really try to reach out to customers that have that extra space, people who are outgrowing their home, right? Let's say you and your significant other, you guys have two kids, right? And you have a five-bedroom home, and all of a sudden one of you has to work from home, or you just feel like the house is just busting at the seams, right? And you need that extra space, right? So your option right now in Austin is you can sell your home and you can spend just insane amount of money to buy a house in Austin. Prices are just so high. It's really not fun for homes. Or you can invest into your existing property, right? And we offer a turnkey solution. So we're going to analyze your permits, give you a feasibility study to see what you can build and how big it could be. And we offer a turnkey service. So we will apply for permits. We're going to perform all elements of construction. We'll have weekly meetings with you. So we try to make this process as painless as possible. I always like to remind our clients, it's still a construction process, right? It's still complex. There's still a million different things going on over here. We try to make it for you as easy as possible, but you have to keep in mind that this is a complex process, right? So setting those expectations correctly and, participating in our weekly meetings, right, with superintendents, gives a really great experience to our clients. And at the end, they have an incredible product added to their home. Their home value is increased significantly by something like this too. On average, anywhere between 20 to 30% in the United States, ADUs are adding to property. So it's a really great investment. You get all your money back when you sell your home, plus some, right? Take your whole family on a vacation to Hawaii, and throughout this entire time, you have all this extra space in your backyard. So it's a win for everyone.
I love that. I love the turnkey nature of it, being able to make it as simple as possible. That's really cool. So I got to ask, some questions around marketing. You referenced it a couple times in passing.
Yeah.
Talked a little bit about the kind of the launch of it, that sort of thing. But what is your current philosophy to marketing? How do you get the word out there about the amazing work y'all are doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Social media has been just such a pivotal element of our marketing, right? The first probably $1 million of sales was just straight up Instagram. Like that's all we did, right? And particularly this was easy for us to do because there was a very low product awareness, right? Like people knew, people like think of yourself, our customers was in front of a dilemma. Okay, well, I need an extra room for my office. I am currently working out of a pantry. I literally have a cereal box falling on my head while I'm in my Zoom calls with this really loud air conditioner next to me. So I need an extra space, and I need to buy a house, which is an insanely stressful experience, moving everything, right, to accomplish that. So it's a really tough spot to be in, right? And all of a sudden you find out that, hey, for like 30 grand, this company can come in and build this really awesome office with air conditioning, insulation, and all the bells and whistles. And they're gonna get it done in like 4 to 8 weeks, and it's gonna be ready for move in, right? And they can even help you carry the furniture in, right? It is just such a relief, right? So just being able to at the beginning raise this product awareness was just crucial for us, right? So if you think of like the top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, right? Everyone was top of the funnel. They had no idea that this even exists, right? That it's an option for anyone. So we were just educating people about this, right? Things have changed since then, right? It's been a few years, and ADUs and tiny homes are much more popular. People know that they exist, right? So at this point, we have a lot more competition we have to work with. So it's all about just helping people understand how are we different, right? So we offer premium materials in comparison to our competition for the same prices, right? And we're continuing improving them, right? We have a great process of the construction too, where you have an assigned superintendent, someone checking in, versus Joe Schmo construction that's going to show up and you never hear from them, and it's going to take forever to build it. And lastly, we have a great process after the project is finished too. So anything happens, you have AC malfunctioning, you give us a call, and we're going to be there within 48 hours most of the time to address whatever warranty issues you have. So just having that peace of mind that we're going to be there with you throughout the entire process of building, and then you have extensive warranty afterwards. I think it's just a huge competitive advantage for us, and it helps us. It definitely helps us stay ahead of our competition, and it helps us deliver a great experience to our clients.
That's fantastic. So, kind of the flip side of the question, anything in marketing that you would maybe tried that didn't work out as well as you had hoped it would, or maybe just some major lessons learned along the way of finding some successful marketing
Yeah,
strategies?
no, great question. So like I mentioned, we're focusing mainly on social media marketing, right? And we utilize Google AdWords as well, right? But it's really kind of just a staple of advertising. Everyone has to do that. Um, we try to participate in some trade shows, but majority of our sales are going through social media. We really haven't had any specific avenues that have not worked for us, where we looked at it and said, this is not money well spent. But one thing that I would like to share with you is that I am a big proponent of bringing processes, or at least major processes, in-house, right? So If anything is
Hmm.
a significant element of our profit and loss, right, I would like to explore whether we can perform it in-house and reduce that cost. So at one point, our sales were growing, our company was growing, and we almost found ourselves in a position where we thought, like, do we have resources to be able to continue that growth from the marketing perspective, right? Or do we, or even thinking from the perspective, how like in advertising, or there is this kind of a proverbial thing like, oh, I talked about Drake's newest album, and then all of a sudden I am getting advertisement to buy Drake's newest album on my Instagram, right? Like, how did that work? I just talked, like, is my phone listening to me, right? So like figuring out how that stuff works and doing the same thing for us, right? If someone says like, oh, I need extra space, right? Next thing, Backyard Pod shows up on your Instagram. It was just outside of our capacity really to understand how meta advertising works. So we engaged a marketing agency to do that, right? And when I kind of sat down my marketing team, I said, you guys have 6 months to figure out what they're doing, right? Because we're hiring those guys, and 6 months from now we're firing them, and we're going to pay them a ton of money during the 6 months, and you guys need to figure out like what's the processes they have in place and how to get the results they do. The marketing company came in and immediately increased number of leads, right? They put in some new strategies, some new campaigns, and they worked really well. And my team worked really diligently also on learning, what kind of things they have in place to make that happen, right? And we kind of followed up with what we said. I think we ended up working with them maybe for 8 months, so a little bit longer. But our entire marketing strategy has improved through that process. So it was intense. It was a little bit hard, but it worked for us. And it was a significant cost for us to be able to hire them for a period of time, in addition to our in-house marketing team. But I think it was money well spent. I think our in-house team is much stronger right now, and our marketing approach and strategy is much better as well.
I love that approach. I love the, what can we learn by leveraging people that do currently have, the knowledge and skills that maybe the team doesn't quite have yet, and being able to bring that in and continue to grow. That is phenomenal. So let's, quickly, let's future pace for a moment. Where are things going the next 3 to 5 years? Where do you see the business 3 to 5 years from now? Where do you see your role within the business when you look kind of 3 years out?
Mm-hmm. So that's like double our age, right? So much is going to happen during that time. Our mission for the next 3 to 5 years is to be in at least 3 markets, right? So we're currently exploring going to a different market, different city, and build a relationship with local builders to do that. Ideally, we would like to set it up through a franchise model that I think is going to create the easiest process for it, but it's very complex, right? Creating a franchise is a long process. So we're working with some third-party companies to explore how that can be set up and whether it's going to work for us, right? And we have our sales goals. So we would love to reach those goals as well, in terms of the builds. And we have our product goals as well. So we would love to be 3 years from now in a place where majority of our products are pre-made before the installation, to limit the amount of time that we spend in our customers' backyard. So we are in a place where I think we comfortably, by 3 years from now, we'll be able to cut down our installation time frames by 50. And that's really where we'd like to be. So expanding to 3 cities, continuing improving our materials, which we continuously working on, and then cutting down our installation time by 50% is our primary goals.
It's fantastic. I love the clarity of the goals as you look forward out here. So I know we've covered a ton of ground, and I want to be respectful of the time that we have here. So as we start to wrap up, we've got a few rapid fire questions I'd love to dive into, just kind of pull some additional wisdom nuggets out for the audience here. So I've got 4 in total. First one, when you look at your journey so far through this business, through kind of life and your experience so far, what would you say for you is your key to success?
Mm-hmm. I think consistency and quality in everything we do, right? Being methodical about every single process that we do, just measuring and looking back, right? Without getting into analysis paralysis, but always measuring things and how are we doing. So, and then from there, continuously trying to improve small steps at a time, instead of big grand, lofty goals, right? Just thinking of, okay, what's the next small thing that we can do?
I love that. If you could give just one piece of advice to other business owners out there, what piece of advice would you leave them?
I think the biggest thing for us that has worked is to staying true to our values and our mission. There is particularly in construction, there's so many different things we can try to do, right? And when we constantly get teased with things like, oh well, we love our pod. Can you do our kitchen? Can you help me with the expansion of my house, right? Just sticking to our, for us particularly building small spaces, right, and continuing focusing on improving process around there was crucial to relieve any distractions and staying on course with our business.
Very cool. What is one book that either you're currently reading or have read most recently that you would recommend to the audience?
Mm-hmm. Not trying to be political in any way, but I appreciate the book nevertheless. It's a book by Pavel called "It Worked for Me." It's not, the most it's the most recently read book for me. It really promotes maintaining a positive attitude and motivating a team from that perspective, and always kind of seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, regardless of what the situation is. I found it to be very powerful, particularly from a person like Colin Powell, who has obviously faced so many different challenging situations during his political career.
Hmm, I like it. Final rapid fire question, and this one's just kind of fun. If you
Mm-hmm.
could take a little bit of magic dust and you could sprinkle it over just one area in your business, and you only get to choose one, where
Mm-hmm.
would you choose to put that magic dust, knowing that when you do it, you wake up tomorrow, it's 10 times better than it is today? Where would you choose to put it?
Mm-hmm. I think that would be our scheduling process, right? I always joke that every single construction worker is a captain of their own ship, right? They all treat me like they are my boss, and like I am working for them. So trying to align those schedules and getting everyone in the right places at the right time is extremely challenging. So if we could have that fairy dust fixed, I think I would sleep so much better at night.
I love it. So, for those that are watching and who wants more information to follow the amazing work that y'all are doing, that might be interested in contracting y'all, working with y'all, creating some amazing spaces, things like that, where can we advise the audience to go for more information or to make some connections here?
Yeah, absolutely. Our website, I think, is the best place, backyardpod.com. Also, our Instagram, just looking for Backyard Pod. You can see all of our work we completed over there, and we have a lot of informational videos there as well. And there's a lot of fun stuff there too. So I think Instagram is probably the easiest, but if you are not on social media, our website is second best.
Excellent. Well, I will put those in the video description below. So for those watching, make sure you go down, click the links, check it all out. Make sure you connect. If you get on Instagram, maybe send them a quick DM and say, "Hey, saw you all on the business spotlight. Loved the conversation," and just kind of let them know that sort of thing. So, Paul, as we finish up here, I always like to end on one very specific question. And that
Mhm.
question is simply, what is most inspiring to you today?
Oh wow, that's a great question. Um, I think what really inspires me is the positive impact our tiny homes and our ADUs have on on individuals and families that we build for. Just really helping them embrace a simpler, more sustainable lifestyle, and just loving the space that they live in. A lot of times we offer solutions for, children being able to have their parents really close by, right? Or vice versa, right? Parents providing housing for children. And those are life-changing solutions for people. So we just love being a part of that.
That is so cool. Pavel, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing a bit of your journey. I know we could probably sit here for another hour and just like really dive into some stuff, but I want to say thank you for taking the time and sharing this. It's been a pleasure to have you here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.